Hello and welcome. The race to Nigeria's 2027 elections is heating up with, of course, the once marginal African Democratic Congress, ADC, now serving as the opposition coalition's temporary platform. But internal divisions are already threatening its momentum as party factions allege due process was not or was ignored and warn of a possible hijack. Power struggles and legal concerns now cloud the coalition's future just days after its launch. Now, for context, the African Democratic Congress, founded in 2005 as a reformist alternative in Nigeria's political space, was envisioned as a vehicle for issue-based, people-centered governance. For over a decade, the party maintained a relatively modest national presence until 2018, when it gained brief prominence following a merger with former President Olusegun Obasanjo's Coalition for Nigeria movement. Despite the attention, meaningful electoral breakthroughs remained out of reach. And in July 2025, the ADC returned to the national spotlight. At a strategic meeting in Abuja, prominent opposition figures, including Atiku Abubakar, the former vice president of the country, Peter Obi, the Labour Party presidential candidate in the 2023 presidential election, Nasir El-Rufai, a former governor of Kaduna State and a former chieftain of the ruling All Progressives Congress, Rotimi Amechi, a former governor of Rivers State and a minister under Buhari, of course a former member of the APC, and then David Mark, a longtime member of the PDP, formally adopted the APC the ADC now, as the interim platform for a proposed grand coalition ahead of the 2027 general elections. Now, the plan is to leverage the ADC's existing structure while a new party, possibly the All Democratic Alliance, undergoes registration with INEC. Let's take a listen to David Mark and Ralph Nwosu, who used to be the chairman of that party.
It is on record that within 2 years of the current administration coming to power, it has hijacked all democratic institutions and sent our country on a creeping descent into total civilian dictatorship. The blatant destabilization and infiltration of all major opposition political parties is aimed at achieving only one objective: to enhance total state capture and leave Nigerians with no alternative options in 2027.
We hands together for the sake of our country. So at times I want to feel that the next thing will be, why don't we say ADC in Nigeria first? But Arise Nigeria and Shine is great. Nigerians are yearning for change. Nigerians are yearning for coalition because they feel that they want all of you, everybody, to come together. If you're well-meaning and if you're for the country, come together.
Well, David Mark, the current acting national chairman of the party and the man he's taking over from Ralph Nwosu there. However, actions within the ADC, particularly former party executives and members of the board of trustees, have pushed back, describing the coalition's adoption as unconstitutional and procedurally flawed. They argue that the decision was made without proper consultation with the National Executive Committee or the party's grassroots structures. The ADC's presidential candidate in the 2023 election, Obi Atiku, dismissed the coalition effort as an attempted hijack by power-driven politicians, urging them to seek another platform if their aim is not to promote narrow, self-serving interests. Take a listen to Obi Atiku now.
Can you enter a man's house through the back door and declare yourself the landlord? These yesterday's men who represent a bad chapter in Nigeria's past have bought bad markets from a man who represents a bad chapter in ADC's past. Nigerians have watched in amazement as this group of mostly geriatrics shopped around for a party to prosecute their chopping must continue ambition. This further cements the opinion most hold that political parties in Nigeria stand for nothing and will fall for anything. They have told us that they are fighting for the rights of ordinary Nigerians and that they are on a rescue mission. But what is confusing to the Nigerians they want to rescue is that these men, made up of a former vice president, former governors, ministers, and political office holders, are the same people who have presided over the affairs of this nation for the past 4 decades. We have absolutely nothing to show for their decades of leadership other than being seen as a nation divided by tribe and religion and thriving in mediocrity. We are a nation lacking in the basics, whose majority are poor. But here we are watching those who set our nation on fire, saying they are the fire brigade. No, you're not. You are a bunch of greedy and selfish old men who believe that political power is your birthright.
So the internal rift now threatens to derail the united opposition front. While coalition leaders call it a strategic move for 2027, factions in the ADC warn of legal action and party fragmentation. Well, joining me now to discuss more on this is political scientist Simbo Olorunfemi, who joins us from Abuja. Mr. Olorunfemi, thank you very much for coming on the program. The first question I have to ask you is this. I mean, you would think that this coalition would be formed probably under the banner of the People's Democratic Party, because we're talking about a party with a very well-established structure. It's a popular party and all of that. But here you have big wigs of the PDP leaving the PDP now to adopt a very small and probably unknown party, and they're using that now as a vehicle. Why do you think this is not happening under the PDP platform? Because you would expect that Atiku Abubakar and other bigwigs, David Mark and the others, would have, tried to bring this coalition together under the PDP because of the kind of structure the PDP has. But that is not happening. What do you think could be responsible for that?
Well, that would be the logical expectation, I would say. That's what one would have expected. But if you dial back to what's been happening within the PDP, then you'll be able to see why they had to surrender that platform and move on elsewhere. It's an indication of the fact that the Wike Atiku fight has been on since 2023 or thereabout. It's gotten to a head, and I think it's gotten to the point where Vice President Atiku Abubakar has come to the realization that he's lost out, and there's just no way he's going to be able to use that platform to achieve his objective of running for presidency in 2027. You can see that with the victory, with the return of Samuel Anyanwu as the national secretary of the party, with Dama Gumsi sitting firm as the acting national chairman of the party, which means that they're the ones who are going to be responsible for organizing the national convention. That already gives them an edge. So I think Vice President Atiku Abubakar and his team have already seen that they've lost the battle in that regard. That's why they had to move elsewhere. I think they tried with SDP. Of course, they saw that wasn't working out, and I think when they had their backs to the wall, more or less, I think that's what has pushed them to the ADC, and I'm not exactly sure that's the best move, but I'm sure we'll get to that.
So how do you think they're going to pull this off? Because, look, we've seen coalition in this country before. We've seen mergers. I mean, you take a look at what happened pre-2015 when the APC and other political parties came together, the CPC. There was a structure. I mean, they all collapsed. These were parties now with very solid structure, and they collapsed their structure together. And they use those structures now, to come to power. But in this case, we're talking about a political platform that hasn't got any structure at all. In fact, even if they were going to still get the AD, that's the All Democratic Alliance now registered, still hasn't got a platform at all. So the question is, what do you think they could be thinking about? I understand the point that, look, they're leaving the PDP because of the troubles within the party, but to adopt a relatively unknown political entity, is that a wise move?
Well, there are certain things that work for ADC. If you look at past elections, you see that of the different fringe parties that we have, ADC seems to somehow get to do a little bit better than the other fringe parties in the election. And why is that so? It's because if you look at the results, you see that maybe some of the votes are meant to be for APC, some mistake in the process of voting and accidentally vote for ADC. And I think that's the explanation we've had for them doing as well as that might have been a factor. The fact that it's so in the in the arrangement in the ballot, on the ballot paper, ADC ranks higher than APC. That's really nothing. It's something, but it's nothing in the realm of wanting to take over power in the presidential election. I agree with you. What is there? I mean, you go into a party, you've not done your due diligence. ADC has been in crisis for God knows when. I mean, we have in ADC, the chief Rafun who just handed over the party to the newcomers has been on that seat for 20 years. Since 2005, when the party was founded, this man has been on the seat. And you remember, in 2007, I think it was Patu Tomi was the presidential candidate, and I think 2019, Obadiah Malafia was the presidential candidate, who seemed there was a bit of traction. But don't forget that in 2023 election, the primary was contentious because people had expected that Kingsley Moghalu was going to triumph, was going to be the candidate of the party, but somehow maybe Kachiku beat him to it in rather controversial circumstances. But since that time, there's not been a peace in that party. There's been crisis. People have asked Ralph Ngosu to step aside. I think even before that election in 2022, a case was instructed in court, and at the High Court level, he was sacked as chairman of the party. I don't even know, because the caretaker committee was supposed to have been set up, and I don't know how I was able to manage to conduct the 2023 elections. But thereafter, he went to the appeal court, and he was successful, and the court ruled that it's strictly an internal party affair. But then the factionalization in the party was still in existence, and that's why you've seen maybe Kachiku, because he seems to have been at the head of one faction, and the other faction headed by Ralph Ngosu. And obviously, the people who, the new owners or the new takers of the party probably didn't consult with the other side of the other faction before taking a decision. And here they are now, they walked right into crisis, and before you know, they start telling us that the crisis within the party is being instigated by external forces. Well, how will you explain that? You should have done your due diligence before taking over such a party. And as you've said, where is the structure? I mean, people have made the false equivalence between what has happened now and what happened in 2013, whereas you can't even compare them at all. In 2013, you had about 10 governors. I mean, back in that political party, you had ACN, which was a major player then, had about 5 states outside of Ondo states. They had all of the states in the southwest. You had the CPC, I think they had 2 states. And you had a faction. That was even before some 3 PDP governors came over to join them. So that was a completely different arrangement. And we're talking about an arrangement where there was a merger. The parties dissolved their parties and all came together under one umbrella. What we had last week, well, good for the optics, we'll say. But it was just a case of more or less Abuja politicians just showing up and feeling good at Yaradua Center. But in terms of building up, for you to have a sustainable platform that will be able to deliver a good result for you in the presidential election, you have to build bottom up. So it wasn't, what you had was, what we have right now is a case of some people gathering at the top, then hoping that the bottom will rise to meet them maybe midway. Their only hope is, they know that there's like an organic movement, the obedient organic movement, and they can't even make up their mind what exactly what they want to do with that. Do you want to set up this platform and let the man who leads the obedient movement take charge? Would you be willing to do that? If you're not willing to do that, then you have not started at all. Because if you take it back to 2013 again, 2013, the people came together, even at the time or at the point of, at the thought process, at the point of storming, at the point of forming, they had a clear idea of what they were trying to do. They had the presidential candidates in mind. The Muhammadu Buhari, the 12 million man was there. The 12 million vote man was there. For them, it was like, okay, let's get this man. We can be assured of 12 million. And if the Tinubu, the ACN can't gather enough votes from the Southwest, then we can come together and upstage the incumbent president. And don't forget, at that point in time, the sitting government, the President Goodluck Jonathan, already had a problem within the PDP because there was a seeming understanding that power ought to return to the north. So that was a different circumstance, and APC just capitalized on that by bringing somebody
sorry
who
to
had like
interject.
12 million.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry to interject now, but could it also be that in this case now, the current politicians and the ADC are also thinking along the line of, you have an Atiku with about, well, a 6 million vote man, more or less, because he got at least 6 million plus in the last election, last presidential election. Obi also got somewhere around 6 million plus as well. You know, the difference not much at all. And there had been this before now. There had been this, if you like, general consensus, so to speak, if you like, that if Obi and Atiku had run on the same platform in 2023, perhaps President Tinubu would not have won that election. So is there a chance that, look, these two men are looking at that, they are looking at what happened in 2023, and they are looking at the possibility of working together, one of them becoming the presidential candidate, the other becoming the running mate? Of course, I know it's you know, who becomes the presidential candidate, of course, will have to be a very tough nut to crack, but that they are looking at synergizing, coming together, just as what you said the APC did in 2013, 2014. Could that be what Atiku and Peter Obi, for instance, are looking at?
Well, it's possible. It's a possible consideration, but if you look at the indications are not positive in that direction. Why? With the 6 million or how many millions that Peter Obi was able to put together in 2023, most of them, I would say that a lot of the people who backed him are not willing to support a ticket which would relegate him to playing second fiddle, and they made that clear. And even Peter Obi knows that, and that's why he's not been able to take a decision. I mean, I think it was a few days ago that I was quoted to have said that he was willing to serve only a term, maybe if it's only 2 years. That means you see that he's looking at possible compromise, but the truth of the matter is, how is it going to work? You won't expect Vice President Atiku Abubakar, who's been in this race since 1992 or 1993, who knows that this is his last chance to go for presidency, or I would say, to now give it up, or would he serve as vice to P2B? It's unlikely. So and who says that the 6 million that he got in 2023 is still intact? It's no longer intact. Even for Atiku Abubakar, look at the APC has been able to take over some states from, the whole structure from Delta State, from Akwa Ibom State. Some states are hanging. People are talking about Plateau State. People are talking about Enugu State, Osun State, or your state. Those states are hanging in the balance. So where are the votes supposed to come from? Even some of the organic votes that went the way of Peter Obi in 2023, I mean, the circumstances were completely different. Don't forget that then religion was a major factor, particularly in the Southwest. So some of the votes that came in the direction of Peter Obi in Lagos came on account of question of faith. But some of us will see that the obedient movement has not been exactly kind towards them. Some of the people who were in support of their candidates in 2023, and on account of that, that might have even eroded into the base or support base in like Southwest and some of the states in Southwest. So the likelihood that a Peter Obi, even if he's the number one on any ticket, to be able to galvanize that level of support that he received in 2023 is unlikely. Even if he's going to be able to do that, it's unlikely. Even right now, you can see that there's already a bit of controversy within either the Labour Party or Obedient movement. I think Peter Obi has left it hanging for too late, for too long. And, you know, in politics we say, 24 hours is a lifetime, so anything can happen. But from what we can see right now, we can't just see a pathway to success for this.
And let's not also forget that, you know, there are some other big names in the coalition who are also interested in running. Amechi, for instance, has made it very clear he wants to run. You know, he was on TV just a few days ago, making it very. And we all know he has the ambition to run. I mean, he's not happy that he lost the presidential primaries in the APC. And then you have some other people too who are angling for the position of the I'm just wondering, you look at this coalition, how do you see things playing out in terms of who gets what when it comes to, you know, deciding who, for instance, making a decision now on who flies the ticket of the party?
I'm not very optimistic. I believe that ADC will probably eventually be a platform for Vice President Atiku Abubakar. I suspect that Mr. Peter Obi might be forced to leave that platform and run on his own. That's how I see it. I don't see them being able to work together because it just doesn't make too much sense, you know, because I don't see how he's going to be able to pacify his support base, particularly in the Southeast, that he wants to play a number 2 man to vice president. Even though some of his supporters are trying to offer some explanation now and justifying it and saying that even though they've talked about structure of criminality, but that's where sometimes you have to make a compromise, you have to, which makes sense, you know. You have to be pragmatic to be successful in politics. But this is what some of us have said time past, and we've been shouted and we've been told that no, you've got to be Mr. Saint, you have to play it a particular way. This is not about compromising the process or anything, but there are certain things that you just have to build. You have to have structure. When you say you don't need structures to win elections, whoever says that doesn't know what he's doing, because you need, well, even when people talk about governors, people think it's just about money or bribing people. No, it goes more than that. You know, when we talk about a structure, for instance, a state structure, parties that are strong now have people meeting at ward level. They have foot soldiers at every point. Those are the foot soldiers. So it's not people like us who are going to sit at home on Saturday, on the election day, watching DSTV, who are going to determine the outcome of elections. I mean, we talk about being present at every point. And that is why it's important to have for governors, because it's the governors who lubricate that structure, who ensure that from bottom up, there are people spread out to ensure, to encourage people to go and vote, to guarantee that the votes cast are intact and all of that. So it's not, you can't just build from the top as we are seeing right now. And even for the obedient movement, I know they don't like to hear that, you know, they take offense when you tell them that you need to do the work. I mean, all this while, this last how many years I've been going around, I would say in circles, of course it's good to visit that DP camp, and what you have invested time in is in building structures. Build structures, set up people at ward level, at local government level, people, dedicated people. I mean, we see it, even some of us who live with the elite, you don't see it, but if you go into the in different interland, you see people who meet every week. These are the people, these are the food soldiers, these are the people who deliver food, votes for party. That's the structure. So if you don't have that, it's difficult. Like, you know, you started out by telling us that no matter by reminders of the situation with the PDP, as bad as it is with the PDP, even today, the PDP still has a solid structure that's all over Nigeria. There is hardly a village that you go into that you will not see one or two people who are hardcore PDP people who've been part of the party for maybe for years. So, but that you can't say that for other parties, and that's difficult for fringe parties. You know what was done in 2013 was a measure of the strongest opposition parties came together. Yes. So, but that's not what we are seeing now. I mean, the Labour Party is in tatters. Even the ADC you are moving in, they went into SDP. I mean, SDP has its own outlook, you know, Adebayo, you see the outlook of the ideological orientation of that party. Even the ADC that they've moved into, if you were talking about ideology, even though ideology is practically dead, but if you're talking about ADC and ideology, it's the most unlikely party to go into, because ADC patterned itself after the ANC, the Labour Party, or the Democrats. That's what it's supposed to be. But the people moving in there are not exactly people who move in that, who have that same ideological orientation. But of course, that can be explained, because even Peter Obi himself, who his orientation is capitalist, ended up in the Labour Party. So,
I mean,
the bottom line is that
Yeah,
is that it's difficult. It's difficult. It's not that we're writing off, because some will say it's so early in the day. You've not seen them. Let's give them some time. But money shows the day.
I mean,
Money shows the day. I see the big players going their separate ways at the end of the day. Maybe ADC might work for Atiku Abubakar.
I was just going to say,
sure
look, with our politicians, ideology is actually nothing at all. There's just no ideology. But let me ask you this. This proposal, because, you know, Peter Obi's spokesman has come out to confirm that, you know, that they've made the proposal to the coalition, the one-term proposal to the coalition, even though personally, I find that very, very ludicrous, to be candid, and very, very ludicrous. And, you know, but what do you make of it? How do you think the coalition would respond to that? You know, this proposal of serving one term, that he's ready to sign any agreement to do just one term?
Well, it just does not work with the reality on ground, you know, because I'm not sure that, you know, the principal brain behind this move. I think I would ascribe that I would say that Vice President Atiku Abubakar is the principal brain behind the move. I'm not sure he started out with this project wanting to make the sacrifice, except he's ready to die to self, die to his own ambition. Then without that, a proposal, how would that serve him? If Peter Obi serves one term, is it that Atiku Abubakar will come back in 2027 to run for election? I don't see how that's going to work. And in any case, these little things are things that ought to have been sorted out before getting to this point, because you know, they tell us that they've been at this for 18 months. If you have been at this for 18 months, then this should have been sorted out. I mean, you look at, because we keep dialing back to 2013. In the most people in the public might not know. They might think that it was at the last minute that a Buhari Oshibajo team was put in place. But they'll be maybe they might not know, but behind the scene, that had been worked out long before then. All the options that have been worked out as to who would be the best to pair, would it be a Buhari Tinubu thing? Okay, if that's not going to work, then who can fill the shoes? And someone else has been prepared in the president of the Vice President Yemi Osinbajo to take that position long before things came out in the open. Even though we find people like Atiku Abubakar, Bukola Saraki eventually running in that primaries, but because the brain box, the current president Tinubu had done his own work, so he ensured that the person he had prepared won the primary election in Lagos. And winning that primary election in Lagos, it wasn't after winning the primary election that they started thinking of who was going to run with President Buhari. They already mapped out. They already knew what were the weak points that the presidential candidate, Muhammadu Buhari as presidential candidate, what were his weak points. So their thought was to get someone who could balance the ticket, and that had been done. So you balance your ticket even before starting out. So it's not after the fanfare or after the ceremony that you now start talking about who is going to do one term. I mean, look, imagine that the running mate to Peter Obi was on TV. I watched him Dati Baba Ahmed. Yeah. And he was forthright. You can see that he's been cut out. Where is he in this? I mean, where is he? So, I mean, you've not I mean, you take care of all the angles. You know what we talk about scenario planning, you know all the scenario. Okay, if this is going to be, then what is going to happen to this? So, I mean, he was speaking with a different tongue that is different from that which is principal Peter Obi was speaking of. In fact, he said, to quote him, he said, who is the Tinubu in this coalition? Who is the Buhari in the coalition? Because don't forget that the 2013 merger was built around with somebody in mind. It was a special purpose vehicle built to see Muhammadu Buhari to presidency in 2015. That was the whole idea. You must have that clearly formed out. So if this is supposed to be an Atiku, Peter Obi platform to win an election in 2027, it must be evident. It must be clear. It's not for you to be thinking on the road. You must know where you are going. You must have a clear idea of what we want to achieve and have a plan clearly set out to achieve, and we will be able to see it.
Do you think the APC should be losing sleep over this coalition?
It's tricky. I won't say lose sleep, but they should have their eyes wide open. You know, never take opposition. You know, you do what you call opposition research. You must do. I mean, they shouldn't be sleeping. They should continue, because it looks good for them on paper right now. And you can see that there are indications that more governors might be coming over to join the fold, and which makes the party stronger. But as it makes the party stronger, that itself has potential of creating or triggering crisis even within the party itself. But
that's true.
They have things going for them. They have a rallying point, and Nicobem president. The economic situation in the country is not been too good, but you can see the direction in which they're going. So you can see that there's a likelihood that things will pick up, which would further help the president to be able to campaign on a strong footing in 2027. But it's not even up to me to be advising them on what to do. You know, the man who sits as president has a reputation as a master strategist. He's a thinker. He thinks far, and he has all of these scenarios well planned in his mind. And you know, he has people. He has a think tank. People who can think through all of these different scenarios and plan accordingly. So. I don't think they should lose sleep, but I think they should keep their eyes wide open, because, as they say, anything can happen.
Yeah. Simba Olorunfemi, thank you very much for coming on the show, and thanks a lot for making out time to speak with us. Really appreciate it.
No, you're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. We'll take a short break and we'll be right back. Stay with us. Don't go away. Opinions are free. Facts are sacred, but truth is universal. How, in practical terms, can we, for instance, de-escalate the tension?
President must see himself as the president of the Federal Republic.
We know where the enemy is. 3 places. The Lake Chad Basin, the border area between Nigeria and Cameroon, and then the Sambisa Forest.
On DEJI 360, we give you a complete dose of everything. Opinion, facts, and undiluted truth.
I hardly believe what politicians say in this part of the world.
A new Nigeria is possible, a future is possible.
We delve into the issues, dissect it so that you can understand it, use it to take action.
I don't think there's any need for any governor to look for grant for ranching.
DEJI 360, dissecting the issues.